Hi, everybody. Okay, so with a little bit of real life out of the way, I want to talk to you about the aftermath of the Platinum Jubilee, other royal family members, etc. Before I do, I want to make sure you understand that regardless of what I say next, I have not changed my mind on Charles. I still do not like him much and still do not approve of some of the things he had said and done in his lifetime. But by intensely watching him and the rest of the royal family all over the 4-day Jubilee celebrations, I think I have learned something which maybe they, the royals, do not always realize or recognize themselves. And that is that no matter how posh, how fancy, and how elitist they are still human. Their bodies age and they have human emotions. And although their emotions may be fueled by different things from that of us normal plebs, they still experience emotions brought on by family and other things. Like Harry, Charles appears to be more openly emotional than his sister Anne, which is not to say that she cannot get emotional, but like Harry, Charles seems to show emotion more readily, or perhaps he is just easier to read. Anyway, although I do find Charles a little pompous at times, his use of the words mommy and papa, a little bit of a pain in the nether regions at times, etc., I still got very emotional during his speech at the Jubilee concert. And for once, I felt him using the term mommy appropriate and very real because his face and eyes conveyed what was in his heart, and for once, his words and body language both conveyed his bittersweet message, one of love for his mother and awe of her as queen. However, what really brought this human side home to me was when he bounced little Louis on his knee during the pageant. Now, I know there are people saying that it was planned for that very reason, but I watched different pieces of footage of the event and I absolutely disagree. Little Louis obviously has a mind of his own, and he is obviously a busy, active young man who at some point was indeed bored and could not decide whose attention he wanted next. William then asked Charles whether Louis could come to him, and Charles said yes, and then bounced Louis on his knee. There is absolutely nothing more normal and natural than that kind of reaction to a child. Also, Charles's actions and reactions towards Camilla during all of the weekend's events, like when he tucked her dress in behind her as she got out of a vehicle, guiding her, making sure she is comfortable, has enough room, etc., shows a man with impeccable manners and an obvious love and caring for his wife. However, I think Camilla's health is not too good. She looked very shaky and unsteady leaving St. Paul's Cathedral on Friday. There were a few other times where I saw her being a little extra careful about where she stepped or looking a little uncomfortable and slightly pale. I say this with no malice intended and based purely on my own observations. But I think Camilla is not very healthy, I think she has health issues which we are not aware of. There is not much one can say about William and Catherine, as of course, as always, Catherine was perfect, perfectly and appropriately dressed and perfectly behaved, and the same goes for William. However, there are a few things I have noticed about William. It concerned me that William, at certain occasions in the past, looked either bored or lackluster or even irritable. But this past weekend showed how much he matured, not only in his role as husband and father, but also into his role as senior royal. His pride of his family, his country, his grandmother, and the Jubilee actually showed in his face, and the way he often pushed out his chest and squared his shoulders. That is what we want to see and love to see. It also highlighted one of the biggest differences between William and his father. Although Charles's emotions and human side were on full display this weekend, you will also notice that even though he joined in the festivities, was friendly and smiling, he is a lot more formal than William. There is also this, what I would call an invisible barrier between him and the public. Even if you did not know who he was, just by looking at the photograph of him interacting with the public at the, for instance, luncheon, you would guess that he is royalty or a senior politician or something like that. Looking at William, you may find this in the first few seconds, but then he settles in and becomes part of the crowd. When he relaxes, there is absolutely no distance between him and the public. This tells me that although Charles cares for and loves his wife and family, he does not fully understand the life or circumstances of the average man in the street. William, however, appears more relaxed and himself when he is actually with Catherine, or as we saw with his entire family, than he does when he is alone. Whereas Charles's reactions and body language is the same, whether he is with Camilla or on his own. In my opinion, Catherine has a calming and balancing effect on William. And yes, I am going to say it. William has a kind of empathy with the public, a kind of appreciation, a sense of being part of and belonging among ordinary people, which Charles does not have and never will have, because he will never change his ways, simply because he is too old to change his ways. Now, I heard a story that Charles is a little bitter because it feels like he would be expected to co-reign with William. But if I was one of Charles's advisors, that is exactly what I would have advised him to do, even if not on paper, then at least in the public eye. Charles has his fans and followers, but those are mostly in the 60, 65 and older category, whereas William has support across all ages, but mostly among the younger adults. William thus fills the gaps left by Charles and therefore strengthens the popularity of the monarchy. Yes, William, like any other human, has his faults, but because him and his father are such opposites in looks, behavior, and mannerisms, Charles also fills the gap left by William, at least for now. Charles will face a bigger battle to maintain the popularity the Queen and monarchy had once the Queen passes away, and he will need William and Catherine to bring that balance, that equilibrium, a bit of flash and youth to his reign. Although I believe that William and Catherine truly meant to share the occasion with their children, I also think it was a brilliant move by them to involve their children to the extent that they did. Not only do you love what you can see and feel and hear, and therefore we all laughed and loved the children's antics. But again, it showed them as being normal parents of young children, and in particular, an active toddler. The children also provided a distraction and took some of the scrutiny away or off the adult. Now, I think it was Trevor Colt who suggested that Mike and Sarah Tyndall should perhaps be called on to play a more active role in royal events, and I could not agree more. Mike does not only bring a little humor to every situation, but he is also obviously very loyal and protective of the royal family, and both Charles and William actually need this and will need it even more in the future. So before I go, I spotted something which I think is the perfect example of what I was trying to tell you about the difference between Charles and William. William was spotted by a passerby in a red vest and cap selling the Big Issue magazine, something Charles would never have done. Now, for those of you who may not know what the Big Issue is, we have it here in South Africa too. It is a not-for-profit organization who produces a monthly wellness and topical magazine. Unemployed or homeless people are then given the opportunity to start their own little business whereby they purchase the magazine to sell in the street and at traffic lights and so on and so on. It's also available online or in big outlets, and then the money goes to help the homeless and unemployed. So it's quite an old, well-known charity, and especially here in South Africa, we see the Big Issue being sold in particularly Cape Town. Okay, guys, so that's it from me. Please take good care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.